Police have enough evidence to arrest Dan Hiers for the murder of his beautiful young wife, Ludmila, at their home in Charleston, South Carolina.
I believe Dan Hiers is a coward. He waits until she's asleep and shoots her in the back of the head.
Neighbors place Dan at the scene of the crime, and ballistics link him to the murder weapon.
The bullet was of the same caliber of a gun that Dan Hiers possessed.
Now for the hard part, finding the wily and elusive former cop.
After murdering Mila, we believe Dan left the residence in her red Chevy Aveo and fled the area.
Surveillance video shows him using an ATM at a convenience store about 100 miles away 2 hours later.
And then after that, the last known potential location would have been in the state of Texas, where his car was found abandoned in a hospital parking lot.
In Laredo, on the Mexican border.
Of course, our initial investigation concentrated on him possibly fleeing to Mexico.
And the U.S. Marshal Service finds itself leading an international manhunt for the fugitive accused wife killer.
There have been numerous leads that we have followed up in Mexico, as well as other countries, and to include Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia.
As the search for Dan continues, investigators come to realize they're up against a skilled chameleon who could be hiding in plain sight.
Dan's personality is such where he is generally good-mannered and can easily blend into many different environments. He comes across as being genuine and trustworthy.
They also discovered Dan had been living a sordid, secret double life for almost his entire 7-year marriage to Mila.
A lot of co-workers with Dan did not even know he was married. He would go out with co-workers and Mila would not be around.
Dan's double life included frequent trips to strip clubs, prostitutes, escorts, as well as other females that were very close to being minors.
At least one of them was a minor, and police learned that Mila herself was underage, just 15, when she met Dan, then 24, while visiting the U.S. from her native Brazil. He would woo her long distance for 2 years before Mila's father finally allowed her to move to Charleston to be his child bride when she was 17.
The family wanted her to have an opportunity to live in America, to have a better life.
But that dream was shattered immediately, according to this letter Mila sent to her sister shortly after the wedding.
Mila writes, "I don't know if he's getting better, but at least he's not getting worse. I think that he is not worried to lose me because he thinks I belong to him."
It's not clear whether Mila knew Dan was cheating on her with other women, but she certainly could never have imagined he would sexually assault a little girl still in elementary school.
He's like, "Just don't tell anyone. This is our secret."
Lauren Ramsey is now 19, but she was only 8, and Dan was 32 and still a cop when she fell prey to him at a Charleston karate school where they both were studying martial arts.
Probably like the second week of karate class, he just asked, what's your name? Who do you come here with? Like, where's your mom?
Dan was trusted by the mother because he was a police officer.
I did trust him. He was brought up in the church from a small town. I mean, good Christian family.
Lauren begins to look at Dan as the father she didn't have in her life.
We all got close, and my mom felt that, she can trust him to take me to karate classes or to soccer practice if she was working or couldn't do it. He would pick me up in his cop car, let me push all the lights and all the buttons and stuff. But I felt very safe because, as a police officer, you're here to, protect and, serve.
Dan is soon betraying that trust in the worst possible way.
He would sometimes try to touch me in inappropriate places, and I didn't really catch on. I just kind of blocked it out, didn't want to tell anyone. He told me that they wouldn't believe me if I told. He was like, I'm a police officer, they're not going to believe a little girl.
The despicable wolf in cop's clothing becomes obsessed with little Lauren.
I remember a couple times he would take me to a hotel room and make me duck down on the floorboards so the cameras or the hotel workers wouldn't see him bringing a young girl into a hotel room and get suspicious.
Police say Dan Hiers molested Lauren for 18 months before she finally tells her horrified mom, Leslie.
Now I know the truth. Now I know what was going on.
And what was going on is exactly why Hiers is no longer a cop. Lauren's mother goes to the police, who charge Hiers with committing lewd acts on a minor and fire him from the force. But there would also be tragic consequences for Hiers' wife, because cops say what happened next would directly lead to Mila's murder.
When Mila found out that there were allegations for lewd act on a minor against him, she supported her husband. She didn't want to believe it.
But Hiers had reportedly felt his wife betrayed him by speaking to police, and he was determined to get revenge.
With that being an ultimate betrayal and him facing additional charges that would carry more time in prison, I believe that Dan Hiers used that as a motive to kill his wife and flee.
Because he allegedly murdered Mila the same morning he was due to turn himself in on child sex charges involving Lauren.
Mila had no idea what Dan had in store, that her ultimate fate would be her being murdered by her husband. At his darkest hour, she supported him, and in her darkest hour, he killed her.
And now, 10 years later, police are still searching for Dan Hiers, who's become one of the most sought fugitives on the U.S. Marshal's top 15 most wanted list.
He goes after and violates our young children. He is a suspect in a murder, but also he was a former law enforcement officer. It was a position of trust, and he violated that trust.
Dan Hiers is a coward, a child molester, and a monster. He needs to be taken off the streets.
And the U.S. Marshals Service needs your help catching Dan Hiers. If you have any information, you can call 1-800-336-0102 or submit a tip anonymously at crimewatchdaily.com. There's a $25,000 reward for information leading to Hiers' arrest. I'm Chris Hansen. If you like this story, make sure you tune in every day to Crime Watch Daily. You can find where the show airs in your city at crimewatchdaily.com. Watch it live or record it on your DVR and watch it at night. And to all those criminals out there, remember, we are watching.